guys, what is up? This is Matthew Davis, me once again. Welcome back to another movie review, aka After I Saw. This time is going to be on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Now, this is a continuation of the I don't know what to call this franchise, the Planet of the Apes franchise, where we follow a new leader of the apes called Noah. As after Caesar's era, this takes place generations after when Caesar led the apes and basically brought this whole world together. And we follow, well, like I mentioned before, as his entire village gets taken and he meets up with another ape and a human girl, and from there they try to find the new kingdom. And basically it is up to Noah to figure out what the fate of them living together will look like. And I went in with as low expectations with this film as possible, because the last two movies, the Matt Reeves films, they were epic. And when it came to the Planet of the Apes movies, I never actually did watch the original before, but I did watch it for the first time a few days ago, and it was phenomenal. I definitely see why it became such a big hit and got a franchise of its own. It's a classic. And for the hell of it, I did watch the Tim Burton remake with Mark Wahlberg. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen in my life, but it's still not good. Now, the director of this film is Wes Ball, who is best known for directing the Maze Runner movies. So the fact that someone else was going to be behind the camera for this new one, which I didn't even think was even going to happen, and especially since Caesar's not the leader anymore, because if you saw the last movie, well, yeah, you pretty much know exactly, obviously Andy Serkis wasn't in the credits, so you knew it wasn't going to be about him. So, yeah, but honestly, this movie was a lot better than I thought it would be. I actually had myself a pleasantly, surprisingly good time with this one. I mean, I was hoping it would be good anyway, because the last three movies were really good. Like, Rise of the Planet of the Apes could have just been another cash grab, but the way they told that story and how we saw Caesar evolve throughout these movies, they left a big impact on audiences, and which is why the fact they made it a trilogy, it was very pleasing. I was really pleased with how it ended. I didn't feel like it needed to continue, and while it is sort of continuing that, it's following a new era, as the Caesar's era is completely over. They don't really do anything to tell the story even more, because these are new characters, as the previous characters, they're completely absent. But, I mean, it makes sense. It's generations after, and I actually did like some of the new characters that were introduced. Like the main lead, Noah, I actually really liked him as a character. The motion capture, while of course, despite it always being CG'd, and it's not like, of course, the makeup effects that were in the previous franchise, it still looks visually impressive. Like the way the apes look, they definitely do make the ape designs look their best, and they do look really good here. And the world, while I wouldn't necessarily say the world is all that interesting, I mean, it's basically because, it started off as a regular human city, but of course, the buildings crumbled when the apes rise and all that. And it's visually appealing, just didn't feel all that interesting, as it is your basic, apocalyptic world, like, with the buildings and all that. I mean, as a lot of that does tend to play out, I just wished, they could have looked more into that, because they do travel through this world a lot. But, hey, it's a visually impressive world, so, yeah. And we got ourselves a human character who is sort of called Nova, as basically they're calling every single human in the movie Nova, like, every time they meet up with. But, yeah, Nova actually has a name, which is May, who is one of the last talking humans, as of course, humans have been losing their ability to speak, as apes are pretty much taking over humanity. So, yeah, without getting into any spoilers, I'm not gonna, get into all that, because I actually really like where the direction was going in terms of the story. And it has a really strong villain, and despite these characters being apes, they are really interesting. Like, the way the characters, the way they're portrayed, it's actually done very well. And while it does, its length is a little too long for me. I mean, sure, the last movie was 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I think that's by far the best one, as I didn't really have any problems with that film. I guess because, this is starting a new, franchise because I'm pretty sure they're going to be continuing on with this one. But I feel like because Rise of the Planet of the Apes, that was such a good movie, but the two movies managed to be even better than that film. So I feel like if they manage to, if this is what they're starting with, then maybe later down the line they can actually, because it does kind of indicate that it is gonna start a new franchise, and I'm not really sure if that's necessary. I mean, this movie itself didn't really need to be needed, but hey, I still found myself really enjoying what was going on screen because the Maze Runner movies I thought were average. Not horrible films, just I think this is better than all three of those films. So I definitely like where the director is going with this one, and as far as I know, he's going to be the one to direct the Zelda movie. Like, I don't know how that's going to play out, but he's saying he's trying to make it as perfect as possible. So, hey, this was really good, so there is some hope. This was a pleasant surprise. I expected it to be a bit disappointing, but I wasn't really disappointed. It's definitely not as good as the first three movies, in my opinion, but I feel like with strong characters and a new direction for this world, the fact that it's telling a new story and, all the stuff that happened in the previous films, they're done with. Caesar's era is over, and they do mention Caesar quite a bit, so yeah, it didn't really have me missing him all that much. I mean, I did because he's really what made those movies work really well, but when it follows a new lead, I still feel like it plays out very strongly. I feel like, well, the world could have been a little bit more interesting had it, but you know what, I get it because it originally was our world, but I really like when it comes to these movies, it shows that, humans, they are pretty much the bad guys now, but also sometimes when it comes to the apes, they're not the kindest when they are to one another. So I feel like, while we side more with the apes, but it shows, humans can kind of suck. But yeah, I'm not going to go any further. All I say is that if you're a fan of the first three movies, then I'm not sure entirely how you're going to feel about this one. It might make you miss Caesar and all that, but for me, I had myself a really good time with this one. There really isn't a whole lot for me to say, but all I can say is it surprisingly didn't suck. I really didn't expect it to suck. I just expected it to be okay, but damn, it was a lot better than I anticipated. So yeah, Mother's Day is tomorrow, and I have a big video planned. And if you saw my community post, yeah, you pretty much know what it is. I'll give you a hint. It's a tour, which is kind of like my room, but it involves a lot of stuff like this. Yes, I do take this around with me a lot, but who cares? No one around me does. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Word out.